Hello, folks. The old deplorable basket case here. So I was watching Stranger Things last night with my younger brother. Oh, he's in boot camp, had the weekend off, so I wound up playing chauffeur for him so he could visit all the family, and I wound up staying over with him and my older sisters to watch Stranger Things. I didn't want to watch Stranger Things, but they wanted to watch Stranger Things, and I happened to be there, so why not? I saw the pilot, and well, it turned out to be a lot better than I expected. Anyway, I saw a thing in that episode that brought to mind a thing that I wanted to talk about for a while. And that is why, for a very long time, women did not have the vote. And the answer is quite simple. Because the vote, having a vote, was not a right. It was a privilege. And it was a privilege that needed to be earned. For example, only people who were eligible to vote were eligible for the draft. Seriously, look it up, that's a fact. In fact, to this day it's a fact. Well, only men who are eligible to vote are eligible to be drafted. In the US, that is. I don't know how it might be in some other countries. So, as a matter of fact, for a very long time, the vast majority of women in the US did not want the vote because it was considered a package deal. If you have the right to vote, then you get drafted. If you have the right to vote, then you are stuck with bucket duty. If you have the right to vote, then you are eligible for all kinds of services that are as needed. And what brings to mind is a particular scene in Stranger Things, the pilot episode. I don't know. I'll make a spoiler warning just in case. Spoiler warning: it's pilot episode of Stranger Things. They're looking through the woods for the lost kid. What's his name? The police chief says to call Flo and tell her to call out all the volunteers to go and comb through the woods for the boy. Now, in the olden days, they wouldn't just call out for volunteers. They would call out everybody, all the men who are registered, who are eligible to vote, would be eligible to be called out for doing that. And if they refused to do that, if they didn't do that when they were called on, then they would face consequences ranging from mild societal disapproval to being thrown in jail. This is a big deal, okay? The services, the duties that went with being able to vote were serious and often quite dangerous. And so, for decades, actually a very small minority of women wanted the vote. And the vast majority of women, ranging from 70 to 80% of women in the U.S., said year after year they did not want the vote. They did not want that package deal. And in fact, there were many women who were actually at first very insulted at the offer of having the right to vote without having all those duties that went along. Women didn't want charity. Women didn't want to be treated like they were, oh, what's the word? I forget. There's a phrase. Actually, it's not a word. It's a phrase. Like they were children who needed something handed to them on a platter. So that is why. And in fact, it's not just an it was not just an American thing that voting was a package deal. Okay, it was rooted in English common law. It has roots in French law. Okay, this is a very, very old idea. The idea of a universal suffrage is a very new idea. Okay, in Rome, in ancient Rome, citizenship carried duties. In ancient Greece, being able to vote carried duties. Okay, in ancient Athens, for example, which was a direct democracy, being able to vote carried very special duties. Okay, if you were a Spartan and you lived in Athens, then you weren't allowed to vote, but you also were not liable to be called on to be sent off to war or to be forced to labor on something that was considered necessary for the public good. And that's it. That is why. So incidentally, in America today, people who are not eligible to vote, that is, men who are not eligible to vote, are also not eligible for certain duties. For example, men who are not eligible to vote are not required to register for the draft. Also, women who are eligible to vote are not required to register for the draft. No women, in fact, which is actually very unfair. It is very unfair that I, as a man, am required to register for the draft because I am eligible to vote, while a woman, it is very unfair that I am required that my being able to vote is treated as a privilege with duties that I must be prepared to do, while a woman can treat a vote as a basic right with no duties, no requirements. It's a little unfair, isn't it? In fact, one could almost say that women are privileged. So, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching. Please comment below with anything you have to say. I'd actually like to know what you think. And that's all. Have a good night, and God bless.